Wind the day of the fire was a huge factor. It all happened so quick. I mean, the whole fire took place. It was probably burned through town. Within 20 minutes, it surrounded all of town. And within another probably couple hours, the whole town was just completely done. It was that rapid. So you had houses that were torching neighbors' houses and stuff like that. It wasn't anything that you could safely get in there and control. And it was bewildering even for the fire departments that immediately responded to this. Was how do you even go about tackling it when it's attacking the entire town all at once? A lot of community members, I feel like, haven't been able to even finish kind of grieving over their loss or looking kind of through the things that they lost. And you're talking about people that lost everything, right down to maybe a vehicle, a pet. It's things that really hit people hard. When you're in the middle of it, it's really hard to wrap your mind around how total the devastation is.
Welcome to this special episode of the ADRA Insider podcast, where we will be talking about ADRA's disaster response work right here in Canada. Today, I have 3 guests joining me, one right here in the studio. Peggy Caesar is the Senior Advocacy Specialist at ADRA Canada. Joining us online is Daniel Saw, who is the National Programs Manager, as well as Alain Normand, who is the Consulting Associate for our Emergency Management Department. Daniel, thank you so much for joining our podcast today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm going to go ahead and start with you. How soon after you heard about the fires in BC did ADRA decide to launch a response?
Well, that's a great question. ADRA is, shall we say, always looking to be present and to be helpful. And so when we heard the news and the call that came from the NGO network, and of course, the general news of what was happening, we had meetings with the British Columbia Conference. We had meetings with the NGO Council of BC called IDC BC, and they identified the major needs because of the crisis. And so we were willing to participate and offered our services in certain areas that we specialize in. So disaster response, in-kind donation management, etc. So we were in the conversation, and we were there from the very beginning, from the onset, to bring and share any resources or capacities that we could assist in.
So how long was it from when the fires began and when ADRA began responding? Through the in-kind donations. I know there were other things happening, but for that piece of it, about how much time passed?
Yes, with respect to the in-kind donations, by beginning of July, we were able to secure a warehouse that was large enough to house the donated items that was coming to us all across the province. So our response time was, I would say, within the month. ADRA's response to the Litten wildfire was rather immediate. We have a small church group there, a company in the Lillooet area, and so we found out that they had been devastated by the wildfires, and there was forced evacuation. So many of the residents there are First Nation members or Indigenous peoples of Canada. And the little company reached out to the BC Conference, and as we were talking with the BC Conference, we were trying to identify what could be our best response there. So the first thing was basic needs, so shelter and food security, food items. So we were able to partner with the BC Conference and particularly the Lillooet company, be able to provide some seed funding that they participated in something called the Friendship Center, where they're able to provide emergency care kit items and hot meals and food bags or boxes. So ADRA's seed funding assisted in that immediate response. And number 2, secondly, we were able to partner with Camp Hope, which is part of the British Columbia Conference, to give some funding that would assist in accommodating evacuees. So they were housed, over 200 were housed at Camp Hope. So they had shelter because they had nowhere to go. So it was a wonderful opportunity to partner with the BC Conference and be able to also help the residents and the members of the Litten community in British Columbia.
This was kind of a sudden project in an already very busy schedule, but one that we were definitely willing to put aside time for because so many people have been affected with this fire. I live in the Lillooet area, and that's where part of the people evacuated to. So on the morning after the fire, I called up the executive director, Carol, and asked her what we could do to assist, if we could do any cooking or helping, because we already cook out of the Friendship Center every Tuesday anyways. She said, sure, Elaine, if you guys can cook for lunch, we'll cook for supper. We ended up serving out of the rec center, and we served just under 200 people. People were very grateful. People were coming by. Some even asked for seconds. They were just happy to get a meal. The First Nations, a couple of ladies got up. They had their drums with them, hand drums, and they were singing a thank you song for the community of Lillooet, which was really beautiful. Later on that afternoon, they had a meeting there, and they brought everybody back again and decided to move people to Merritt. And so people left, immediately. So that was really the extent of what we were able to do when it came to connecting with the actual evacuees, was to supply lunch. We're really excited because we're actually able to assist in this situation where people maybe wouldn't be able to access funds right away to replace things that they currently need, right? So that's what we're working on right now. I'm glad that we have people that we can connect with, like on the ground right now, like you guys just being here and being able to go through and to see all of this. This is amazing. It shows that you care, that people care, that people will give money to help, because this has devastated so many people. So many people don't even have insurance. It's not going to end for a while, and being able to have that kind of support would be huge for them, to know that they can get little things done that maybe they couldn't have get done before. So your money counts, and we have to remember it's not our money, it's God's money. Talk to God, man. He'll tell you where to put it, and he'll tell you to send it to ADRA so it can come here to Litten.
Alain, you were called in to help with the emergency response to the BC fires.
When the fires started, we were seeing what was going on there. We said we have to be there to support, coach, help our volunteers because we hadn't had a chance to really finish the training. Give them opportunities to try it out, to test it. So we said we have to be there, and that's why we didn't hesitate. Nicole, my wife, and I, we worked together on this, and we just jumped on the plane as soon as we could.
So Alain, when there's an emergency in Canada, ADRA is known for its expertise in a certain niche. I know that all organizations who respond to emergencies in Canada all have their specialty, but what is ADRA Canada's niche and its specialty, its expertise in disaster response in Canada?
Absolutely. So although we can play different roles, and we have played different roles in various emergencies, we've done all sorts of things from sandbagging, to crisis care and trauma counseling and things. But the main thing that we are recognized for is the donation management, and the in-kind donation. That's where we have the specialty, and the warehousing aspect is important because when people lost their home, like in Litten, people had no homes to go to, and we were receiving furniture, but where are these people going to put the furniture if they don't have a home? So somebody has to hold on to these goods until the homes are rebuilt and people are ready to take it. So that's where the warehouse comes in. And we were initially offered to use church halls and basements here and there, but the size, we need something of a very significant size. We're talking 100,000 square feet minimum. We were fortunate to get about 150,000 eventually. Which was what we needed, and we used up at least 3/4 of that space during the operation. So we found this warehouse, this huge warehouse in Coldstream, right at the doorstep of the areas being affected by the fire. And so we were blessed, and we're really thankful. We thank God for having found this place.
So the warehouse was secured, and this is where you come into the story, Peggy. You were asked to go to the region to help with communications and story gathering. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that was like?
Absolutely, Heather. Developing and gathering stories is part of what I do for ADRA. And so we had the opportunity to go out to BC and to really see what was going on around that warehouse and to talk with many of the volunteers that are giving up their time to help out. We do in-kind donation management. It's hard work, and of course, a warehouse setting, so it's often very warm, particularly in July and August of last year. Temperatures were soaring in the 90s.
They were reaching the 40s, were they not? If I remember correctly?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they were breaking records, in
Right.
other words, right? So to go out and to meet and talk with our volunteers was really a blessing. We like to go out there, even, in the midst of crisis. It is a sensitive matter, but it's important for our members, our supporters, our partner NGOs, as well as the Government of Canada, to know what ADRA is doing for Canadians here at home and around the world.
And for the sake of transparency, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I understand that you got to go into Litten after the fire had burnt through it, and that you had a particularly interesting day.
Yes.
And you met some people there who are willing to share their stories with you. Can you open up to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, once again, we were traveling around the area, soaring temperatures. We were seeing fires from the highway. They were just sparking off left and right. And so as we even journeyed towards Litten, it was a bit dangerous. In fact, there were times when we had to detour because it was really an active scene. But we're so grateful for our volunteers on the ground, and particularly our ADRA ambassadors. Elaine in Lillooet did a tremendous job, as we consider all emergencies are local. They depend on local communities and local capacities to respond at first. And she did a tremendous job, supported by the pastor, supported by the church community. And she reached out to us about this particular family, Donna and Tricia Glasgow, who had been affected by the fire.
And I believe we have a video of their interview. And for our listeners who aren't actually watching this podcast, you'll be able to listen in and hear them tell their own story of what happened to them during the Lillooet fire.
Don Glasgow, and we're just here reviewing the remains of our home.
I'm Tricia Thorpe, his wife.
And this is your home?
This is our home. Yeah.
Tell us what happened.
We were trying to help evacuate part of Litten. It was an unsuccessful attempt, and we weren't home when the fire raced through, and we were trapped outside of the Botany Valley where we live. We couldn't get back in through the main road. We tried to come back through a back way because we had a lot of animals, and we wanted to make sure that they were safe or get them out, and the fire had already jumped the river and was on the ridge, and we were unable to get home and get our animals to safety.
Well, I've lived here basically all my life. My mom was born up in the valley. Her dad was born up in the valley, Botany Valley. I've been fourth generation to live here. And
How long have you been living in this home?
I built it in 1980, started in 1980, so 41 years. Yeah.
You built this home yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the home, what it was like.
Well, it was just no basement. It was a 28 by 48, and then 4 years later I put an addition on with a full basement, a 28 by 38 foot addition with a full basement and that, and it was a good size house, and everything was, the cupboards were built by me, and everything was built. I built everything basically. And
We're like 60 and 67. This was our retirement dream. It was idyllic. We had sheep and alpaca that we used for fiber because I'm a spinner. My husband had just finished his shop that he started, I think, about 1980, 81, and it took him until now to get it done. We had goats, so we made different types of cheeses and things. We had a huge kitchen and a dining room that actually had 2 dining room tables. So twice a year we'd hold potlucks, usually Thanksgiving and Easter, and we'd invite the entire valley or whoever wanted to come. The place was alive, and I mean, now look at it.
we'd have sometimes 40 people over, and on my birthday one time we had 75 people outside on the lawn here on June 29th, and we had a big birthday party, and we have lots of people here. It was pretty nice, but somewhat changed now.
After several days of going nowhere, on the Monday morning, with the help of BC Livestock Evacuation Rescue, we came into Litten, and I got as far as the roadblock, and we told them that I was not leaving until I got my animals out. And we appealed to the heartstrings, and they got us in. The RCMP there went above and beyond, and they escorted us in, and we got 5 of my 8 sheep out. We got 4 alpaca. All 6 goats were gone. All the poultry, which is my chickens, my guinea fowl, my peacocks. Peacocks were sitting on eggs. None of them made it. 3 of my adult dogs were here, and all 9 puppies. So all of them were here, and that was amazing. And my 13-year-old cat. Finding that the cat was alive and that all 9 puppies were alive, that was my focus, not this. This is just things,
Can be replaced.
And those animals, they're our babies.
So are you going to rebuild?
Yes, we are going to rebuild. This is our home. And it will never be quite like it was, but we've got the animals, and the community here has been amazing. And honestly, I think it's kind of restored my faith in most human beings. Just their kindness has been overwhelming. I don't know what else to say. They've been amazing.
So that video is very moving for sure, to hear them share about what all they had. Yes. And the magnitude of their loss, and at their time in life, right? Like she said, this was their retirement dream, and my heart just broke for them. Yes. That is not the time of life to have to start over from scratch. But what also stood out to me was their resilience. Yes. She's just like, yep, we're going to rebuild.
Yes, their determination.
Yes,
to rebuild.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And I'm just wondering, they have that determination. Have they had any assistance in capacity in being able to rebuild? Have you heard anything more about their story?
The Word of God says in the book of Proverbs that a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. And I just think it's such a wonderful opportunity to help Don and Trish and many other families like them who were affected by these fires. It's very clear from the video that we just watched that the animals were very important to them. And so ADRA helped with rebuilding of their barns so that they can bring the animals back in and life can begin to take on a semblance of normalcy again.
And judging by how they seem in the interview, I have no doubt that they will once again start inviting the community to come back in.
Absolutely. And, it would be interesting, right, through our ambassador who is right there on the ground to continue to track this family and families like them and track Dawn and Tricia and see how they continue to progress going forward.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
We do realize that recovery is slow. It's painful, takes time. But as we continue to walk with those who are affected by disaster, we can see positive improvements in their lives. So just before leaving town, we had the opportunity to meet Pastor Charles Lomadak. Now, I had read about him in the February 21 issue of The Messenger. It was an amazing article entitled Meeting God Under a Mango Tree.
That sounds like a good story to read.
It is a very interesting story that tells the tale of Pastor Charles as a child in South Sudan, having to flee his village, and then going into Ethiopia as a refugee, enrolling in an Adventist seminary, becoming a pastor, and now was stationed in BC at the time of the fires.
Well, let's watch his interview right now.
The night of the fire, I was coming back from Shelawak, coming into back home, and as I was approaching Litten, here I see a huge smoke just in front of me. And I see this smoke, I thought at where this smoke is, and I keep driving, and people were just pulling off the road who are in front of me, and they're kind of parking the side of the road, and I just keep driving until I reach to the intersection between Litten and going into Lillooet. Then there I saw there's a sign that the road is closed, and there were a lot of people, and so I parked my car right there, and I got out of the vehicle and see what's going on and whether I can be able to do something. But I was not able to do anything. Just instead, I was just talking with other people who are being told to get out from their homes, and some of them were still just on the road here who may not have no vehicle. I remember sitting just right here at the roadside here, sitting with other people, talking with this lady who was, watching the fire burning the town. And then I walk on the other side, just by the Esso gas station right there. There was this young man who was just sitting right by the road there. And he was just his head down, and he was looked kind of all dusty and all ashes. And I check on him, "Are you okay, sir?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Do you need any water?" And he showed me he has a bottle of water. I was planning to get him some water. And so as I see at times I felt totally kind of helpless to see how I can help. And these firefighters guys were just running up and down. It was horrible. I can see the fire, just the flame, just jumping on this side of the highway. And then that one is going that direction. It was terrifying. It was totally terrifying. ADRA is doing a great job that I think I encourage any volunteer, even any local church, who would like ADRA to be the light. Let them get involved. Let them support ADRA, whether it is donating a penny, $1, whatever. It is going to make a huge impact, a huge difference to a life of someone.
Pastor Lomedak spoke very powerfully about getting involved, whether it's through financial support or through volunteering. And that just makes me think of a question I'd like to bring Daniel in to ask him. Daniel, when we have a crisis like this in Canada, who does ADRA turn to for help? Do we just start hiring a whole bunch of people to get the work done? Do we even have a budget for that? Who is it that we rely on the most to carry out our response?
We firmly believe in training and being prepared. When a crisis or emergency occurs, it's too late to prepare. So we need to be prepared prior to such a crisis or contingency so that we can be able to respond rapidly, to recruit or mobilize our resources and deploy them, whether it be in person through our volunteers or other resources, etc. So we do offer training, as I alluded to earlier in the podcast, which is very important to have that basic training, introduction to basic emergency principles, and also what to do during a time of crisis, providing some acute counseling, what we like to call PSS, psychosocial support, and also the advanced training when we have to perhaps manage goods and resources, so the in-kind donation management. When goods come in, that's one of our specialties. So I really believe that through preparation of training, of being prepared to deploy, and willingness, working together, we'll be able to respond to increased emergencies, disasters, or crises that will continue, and we believe, till our Lord returns. We are always stronger together. And so we want to encourage you, if you have not been trained, to sign up to be a volunteer and take the free training that we offer. We're very happy to have more volunteers so that when a crisis or emergency occurs, we can call on you wherever you are, in which part of Canada or conference or church, so that you can be a part of the experience of helping during a time of need.
Alain, can you tell us about the volunteers who came and worked at the warehouse? I'm sure in the time that you were there, you met so many people with hearts of gold who are willing to give of their time, maybe even sacrifice some of their summer vacation to come and help out at this warehouse. What was it like working with these volunteers?
It was just amazing. It was quite something. Altogether, we registered over 125 volunteers that came back regularly. Some of them were there almost every day, and some of them were there at least once or twice a week for the duration of the time that we were there.
First thing I have to say is how excited I am to be able to work locally with ADRA. It's been always a dream of mine to work with ADRA, so that's really been a dream come true. Unfortunately, it's been in this circumstance where it's actually a disaster and emergency response, which is the unfortunate thing, but still the work that they're doing is fabulous. When I found out that ADRA was coming to Coldstream to be able to do a warehouse, I just signed up right away and arrived the first day, and it was like, whoa, we're filling this warehouse. This is amazing. It's so exciting to actually be involved. And so where we take clothes from a big box and we sort them down, we size them, we package them to get distributed out and I can say that the quality of things, of clothing that we are looking at is absolutely very good quality. And I'm just very happy and proud to be able to distribute that quality of clothing to people who have nothing. That's what I mean about ADRA. ADRA is actually the hands and feet on the ground of Jesus, and it's like to be able to hand it to somebody and say, here, take it to people that need it. I think that's where it's at. It actually gives me goosebumps. Sorry.
I've been in the Okanagan since 1984, and I've never seen anything like this. As a historian, I know that Litten was the very first white village in the interior of British Columbia, long before there was anything else, long before there was a Barkerville even. And so to lose the entire town is heartbreaking, because it really is a historic place. And for me, when I had an opportunity to volunteer to help the people who've been displaced, it was a no-brainer. I just thought, yeah, I would like to do that. And so bless ADRA for what it does. And I mean, I've been on a mission in Uganda with ADRA as well and seen the work they do there. And it's just wonderful to be connected with an organization that I have a friend who's worked for the Red Cross all his life, and he said, we're there right on the ground, and ADRA was always there right with us at the beginning of these disasters. And that's quite a compliment. The Red Cross tends to be more recognizable, but ADRA's there right at the beginning on all of these. So it makes me proud.
Well, there is an element of exercise, which is great because it emphasizes the health message. And yes, I seem to average about 5K per day. And I feel that's good. It certainly keeps the body moving. And so we thank God on a beautiful day like this for the breath of life, energy, and motivation to get out and help others. You see behind us this tremendous warehouse, and you were asking the question, well, what does one do all day? Well, basically, enormous trucks deliver containers full of clothing and other materials, necessities, and a hive of activity then erupts, which means that the volunteers take the contents of the trucks and distribute them in various ways. First of all, they create a triage center to dispense with that which is good and that which isn't so good. And then there are other departments which the clothing is directed to, and that includes sorting, measuring, genderizing, whatever.
My ministerial director at the BC conference called me and all of the pastors in the central Okanagan area here, and encouraging the BC conference has encouraged us to devote one day a week to set an example and encourage our members to volunteer as well. I would encourage anyone that would be thinking of a productive way to volunteer and serve the Lord, that this would be a great way. And I've had members that have brought their young children, and there's jobs that they can do as well under parental supervision. I've been familiar with ADRA and its work for quite some time, and it's just awesome that we can partner with other agencies. And this warehouse is massive that they've staged for a gathering place and sorting, and then it's going to go out to communities that call for the various needs.
It is important for me that my children do service work, that they learn that it's not all about them. I feel that our children these days have a very big entitlement mentality, and my children especially, and I just wanted them to know what it's like to help and to give back, and to know that there are people that don't have all the pleasures and the blessings that they have, and just to see it and to be involved with it. And he's 10, and unfortunately there's not a lot of opportunities for 10-year-olds to get in and do volunteer and service work because they're too young. But ADRA was fantastic. I called them up and said, I'd love to come out and volunteer. I have small children. Can I bring them? Can I bring my RV? If I can do all that stuff, I'd come out for 3 weeks. And they said, yep, bring the kids, bring the RV. We'll get you set up. We'll do whatever we can to get you settled, which they did. They were amazing. And so he gets to come out and be part of it all.
I am just blown away by these volunteers who have given so much of their time, and just very grateful that they were willing to do that. Peggy, back to you though. I understand that you were in the same hotel that was hosting evacuees. Can you tell us a little bit about the people that you met there? And was ADRA able to do anything to assist them in their circumstance?
So while we were traveling around story gathering, we were staying at a hotel in Vernon, and there were a lot of first responders that were there. And one morning I was on my way out to start the day. I had my ADRA field jacket on, and there's one thing about having the ADRA field jacket, it brings a bit of attention to ADRA. And so that's where I met Rosalie. She was one of many of the evacuees from the Okanagan Indian Band. This was sort of a mitigation strategy. A lot of people who were health compromised or in other ways vulnerable were evacuated from the reserve prior to any fire. And so as I was coming through the lobby, she wanted to know who ADRA was. And so when I told her, she immediately started talking about the needs. And so it was a real blessing that we were able to take that message to Alain and his team at the warehouse, where they were packaging all kinds of boxes of hygiene kits and other things. And they were able to respond very quickly. In fact, by the end of the day, when we had come back from story gathering and shooting, they had already received the hygiene kits. And
that's wonderful.
Absolutely. And one of the things about hygiene, we talk about hygiene kits and things like wash, water, sanitation, hygiene. It's not just about the items. It's about dignity, right? And so what she was saying was that people were evacuated very quickly, and they had brought very little to nothing. And after a few days, their supplies ran out. And so having that nice bottle of shampoo, the toothpaste, and other items was very, very important to them.
This might be TMI, but I'm just thinking as women, there are certain products that you need on repeat, and to have run out of that would be horribly embarrassing, right? Yeah. So I'm really grateful that ADRA was able to respond in that kind of way. I understand that she was willing to give you an interview. Is that right?
Well, she turned out to be a wonderful extrovert like myself. And so we really got on famously, actually. And we're Facebook friends now, too.
Oh, cool.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it was wonderful spending some time with her and finding out some of the challenges.
Well, let's go ahead and watch her interview now.
Well, hast hu halt in squeezed Rosalie Saddleman. Hello, my name is Rosalie Saddleman, and I am an Okanagan Indian Band member. Our band is one of 7 nations, and we are called Syilx Nation, and we go from Vernon all the way to the border. It's a vast area, but I am a proud Okanagan woman. The experience with the fires today and the past few days since we've been given the evacuation order is we've had to evacuate hundreds. And they're all from the Okanagan Indian Band right now. So people have been displaced. They are here, and we are in this building is health compromised and our elders. So the Okanagan Indian Band takes pride in taking care of their elders first. So with that, this is our home base right now for information and stuff, so we can help the elders. At this moment, the fire is getting really close to where we live, like within kilometers, and it jumped last night, and it's getting serious to the point of where we're all worried where we don't know tomorrow. It's tough because the unknown. This is our first. Well, we've had a flood a few years ago, I think in 2017, but to have this magnitude of loss and devastation, and it's coping with it. It's tough too. With the connection with ADRA, we are very, very much appreciative of all the assistance that you've provided us, and the future, and the future in-kind donations, because, I'm not one to go out and really ask everyone or what's there. I do, but you know what? That in-kind donation yesterday was great. We appreciated it, and we don't even know what's out there. How can people help us? ADRA has helped us tremendously, and we, like I said, we really appreciate it. And knowing the supports are there, we didn't know. Just even having someone with as much enthusiasm as Peggy from ADRA. It's awesome, and it's appreciated because it's grounding others out. Just the wowness, as my granddaughters would call it, the super fantabulous energy that's coming from ADRA and Peggy. So it's great. I just love it. I haven't met anyone with as much energy as Peggy.
I am so glad you got that interview. It was wonderful of her to share all of that with us. I understand that you're still in touch with her. You mentioned you're even friends on Facebook. So do you have any updates to share with us about her and her band? And has ADRA been able to partner with them at all?
Absolutely. Recovery is a long-term thing. And so it was wonderful to be able to build a relationship and continue to track their progress. And, in fact, what happened was that about 9 homes were burnt on the reserve. So 9 families lost their homes. And so part of the rebuilding effort is for those homes. So in speaking with Rosalie, she informed me that up to today, 2 of the 9 have been replaced with these mini homes. And so folks have those while the full rebuilding of the actual homes are in place. And so it has been very disruptive for the families. Many still are living with friends or with family. ADRA was able to help in providing a lot of the furniture, including appliances for the homes.
Wonderful.
And so a lot of what we gathered through the warehouse effort will be going back to the Okanagan Indian Band.
Once the homes are rebuilt and they're ready to move in?
Once the homes are rebuilt and they're ready to move in, but also clothing that was lost through just the fires, folks have been able to access those through the warehouse as well.
That's wonderful. I'm really glad to hear that. I hope we can continue to have these kinds of updates. Yeah. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you will tune back in for our next ADRA Insider podcast.